Hey, welcome back. Another episode of the Moto Academy podcast, the number one podcast in motocross. It's going to be another solo episode today, but we're going to combine it with a Moto Academy live stream that will take place in, approximately 25 minutes. So I'll be solo before then. We're going to do one podcast question, a little bit of topics that I have that are kind of a little slightly miscellaneous and all over the place. And then approximately 30 minutes into this episode, we're going to be live inside of the app doing a 1 hour jumping live stream. So if you guys want to hear from people inside the app, if you want to learn about jumping, and I have some slightly different and interesting topics to talk about with jumping today that maybe I haven't completely dove into in the podcast yet. AKA commitment, AKA strategy, AKA comparing yourself to others and their jumping and some other things like that. A couple of things right off the rip before we even get into it. We're on tour. And if you go to the motoacademy.com, you might realize, boom, man, we got a fresh look on the website. I'm on it right now, and it looks so much better. I can't even tell you. I mean, totally different color palette. We've rearranged a whole bunch of stuff, made it, I think, a little bit easier on the eyes to just figure out how to get to the app. We've got testimonials on the main page, so shout out some Moto Academy peeps in there for some testimonials. Moto, Shake and Blake, Mike and Andrew, Komodo, Jay Stuck. Who else? Another Jay Stuck? Or is that right back to the beginning? We got to get more on there because I think there's only about 5 or 6. Let us know. Rate the new site 1 to 10. This is still temporary to hold us over. We have some big plans for the website, but I'm pretty darn happy with it. I think this is a huge step in the right direction. I think it looks a lot more inviting. I think it has a few key elements to it, like the banner scrolling across the top that has some info, one of which is the 0% interest payment plans that you guys can use on our site. So if you're buying something a bit higher dollar and you don't feel like dropping all that money at once, tell you what, even somebody that has money, that's still a good move, is the 0% move. The more you can spread out money, where did I learn this from? I think, was it Rich Dad, Poor Dad? No. Scaling Up? No. E-Myth? No, I got all the books behind me. I'm not sure. But collecting the payments owed as quickly as possible and then delaying your payments owed to others as much as possible helps cash flow. So for those of you that want to increase cash flow, utilizing 0% interest plan is an absolute no-brainer anytime you can do that. Just obviously don't overshoot that window, because then who knows, it probably goes up to high interest after that. So you guys can utilize that for anything on the website, period, I'm pretty sure, but definitely worth using on our season passes, our summer camps, anything that's a bit more high dollar. So yeah, check out the website. We're on tour. We're going to Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Texas, California with Adam Cincerillo, Ohio with Jeff Walker, Colorado again, New Jersey, California, Kentucky, Michigan, Massachusetts, New Mexico, California, Idaho, Alabama, California again, Georgia, Louisiana, Illinois, Florida, probably Florida again, and so much more. We have 3 entire pages of tour dates going all the way pretty deep into 2025. So if you want to get signed up ahead of time, if you want to gift it, go to themotoacademy.com, sign up. Also, I don't know if you noticed over to my side here, but we've got sticker packs available now. These aren't in pack form, but they sent me some trials just to test these bad boys out. And bikegraphics.com, who we're collaborating with on some custom Moto Academy graphics and sticker packs and a whole bunch of cool stuff. What do we got here? Warning Fast Rider, pretty cool. We got the OG, well, not the OG, but our just normal logo. We got another Moto Academy racing sticker. We got the 330 front number plate, which are always fun. We got the Thrasher, the Moto Academy there. I mean, this one's probably my favorite. Old school kind of whip cartoony deal. These will be in sticker pack form, and they're incredibly high quality for sticker pack form, which I probably shouldn't do. I should probably not make them quite as nice, so the profit margins probably could be a little better. But you know what? I want you guys to always have the best stuff, even if it means I make no money. So that's how we do it here at the Moto Academy. Who cares about profit margins when you can have really high quality stuff? Oh, and this one's like a metallic. Cool. Yeah, so we got sticker packs coming to you guys. Those will be on the website in the next week. Really exciting. Really exciting. Okay. Let me put these away. And then I'm going to dive in. Ethan created some topics for me to cover today. So shout out Ethan. He is our videographer. Pretty new to the Moto Academy last few weeks. And I'll tell you what, he's killing it. He's killing it. Ray's coming soon. Ethan, editor's note, Ray's coming soon. Yeah, he's doing extremely well. So if you've been liking the content, let me not put it there because I'll lose it. Put it over there. If you guys have noticed that the podcast clips, the podcast videos are looking a bit better, if the content across the board is looking a little bit better, Ethan has been doing our stuff lately, and yeah, he's got an amazing eye for it. A lot of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. So I'm just excited to take everything to that next level. Website, content, the whole shebang. Okay, so I'm gonna just dive into some topics that good old Grant came up with. By the way, reviewed these, yes, but didn't necessarily come up with a game plan of how I was going to talk about them. So, you know, bear with me here. We are the #1 podcast in motocross, but I just might be absolutely all over the place. Okay, first things first. Who listening to this podcast rides a dirt bike? Raise your hand. Okay, absolutely excellent. Pretty much everybody raised their hand. All right, okay, good. And who that rides a dirt bike has recently seen a photo or video of them riding? Because if you haven't, you don't know what you're doing. Can you guys hear Allie singing upstairs? The amount of people that I see riding, thinking they're doing something, and then for the very first time, finally get eyes on what it is that they're actually doing. It's never what you think it is. I don't care how high level of a rider you are, how brand new you are, how much even body awareness that you have when you are putting yourself on the dirt bike with all of the variables, the adrenaline, everything kind of thrown and tossed in there. It's just about impossible, especially at first, until you are master of like knowing what you're doing versus comparing it, studying, experimenting, studying, changing, studying, doing, which is what I do all the time. Until you get to that point, you don't really know what's going on. It is so critically important to have somebody snap a photo. Go buy that. If there's a photographer at a track that's doing some photos, like go buy a photo or two. First of all, you're helping a small business, which is great. And you can just look at a couple of photos, even if they're mistimed. It's like, okay, in this corner, wow, ooh, I looked like that. If you're at the track, give your iPhone to somebody. If you're at the track by yourself, just say, hey, do you mind? This might be a weird question, but just like, hey, do you mind maybe filming me as I go by for just 5 seconds, 10 seconds? And that 5-second clip or 10-second clip really could be invaluable because it starts to just create awareness in what you're doing. And then after that, the ideal situation is being able to do it consistently. So you can make consistent changes, improve, experiment, and you go through that process consistently. But at the beginning, it's more so just to create the awareness of what's going on. That is one of the many reasons why the Moto Academy app is so valuable, is that we have so many riders in there leveraging and taking advantage of being able to send their riding footage in and have the Moto Academy coaches and other people inside the Moto Academy community give their feedback on what's going on. And what's cool is that as people get further in that process, they know, they can look at the footage and be like, yep, okay, I got to get my hips in a different position. My elbows are also dropped a little bit, and my outside foot is a little bit turned out. Boom. That's 3 things for next time you hit the track. You can prioritize them. And I cannot explain to you how darn important that is. You can do it on any section of a track. It could be literally a 3 to 5 second clip. It can be a first person, like a GoPro helmet cam, but much harder to tell what's going on in that. There are some times where people send in footage and I can literally like watch the shadow and see what the shadow's doing body position wise. But yeah, much easier just have somebody film with an iPhone. Even if you go to the track yourself, just ask. It's worth it. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. It is so worth it. You will not improve. There's no way to improve more quickly than to study footage. There just isn't. Yeah, and then the other benefit of being in the Moto Academy app is being able to study the footage of what exactly it should look like, have the feedback from the instructors, and then seeing how you're doing it. So you've got the full 360 of like, okay, I can compare. I want to look like this. Great. This is what I currently look like. And then you have the coaches being able to tell you how to prioritize maybe all that information in your head. Pick the right person who you want to look like as well. There's a lot of good examples, especially nowadays. I think Jet is probably the most obvious good example. But not to toot my own horn, in the Moto Academy, like if you're watching footage of me ride, I'm a good example, much slower, but I'm a good example of it as well, because what I'm doing is a very over-exaggerated version, because I'm trying to demonstrate at all times what it should look like. It should be super obvious to be able to just compare, see what you should be up to. So yeah, study footage, folks, for gosh sakes. Okay, what else do we have in here? Oh, this just in. This probably happened a while ago, but maybe not. I don't know what's going on. Tomac to replace Sexton for Motocross of Nations. Chase out with a bone contusion in right hand. Oh, so when he got landed, bone contusion. What does that mean? Contusion? That's not broken. I've heard the word contusion before. Hole? Is that what? Contusion? Hole? That's my guess. I've got a pretty good vocabulary, but let's look it up. Contusion. A bruise or a hematoma of tissue. Didn't know that. Thought for sure a contusion would be a hole. Okay, good to know. Good to know, folks. New word of the day, contusion. It's a bruise or a deep bone bruise. Is that what it said? Or I just made that up. Okay. Tomac to replace Sexton. You know what? I love Sexton. He's great. He's riding absolutely amazing. I would probably pick Tomac anyways. Tomac's riding like a beast. His bike setup is great, I think. It appears that way. It just seems plush and like, yeah, it seems like it's working well. Tomac has a stupid amount of experience in that. Yeah. That's a good choice, I think. I mean, oh, another Chase topic. Why did Chase, and I didn't know this until somebody else mentioned it today, why did Chase go with Supercross setup over MX setup for SMX? Man, I don't think that's a good choice. I'm sure that I would have to guess that most of those guys had some type of hybrid going on. The difficult part about every single track, actually, from what I recall for the playoffs, is that it was all very moto-like, and then you had one rhythm section that was, first of all, really long, and also hard-packed, and also really steep. Like, it appeared almost steeper than normal, so it just seemed like a weird mix. Like, why wouldn't you put in a rhythm section that's maybe a little bit more tame? So that way these guys, or even a whoop section that's just like a little bit more tame, where you can skim it with moto suspension. Because a steep rhythm like that can get really hairy. So then these guys have to make a decision to find a compromise of a setup. I feel like it just adds danger, and it doesn't really add too much like for the viewer, right? I think that the first track and the last track, so what, Chicago and Vegas, the layouts looked pretty fun to watch on TV. But I just think that the rhythm sections were kind of unnecessary. If I were to choose, I would always choose the moto setup over the supercross setup, because the supercross setup, most people don't have experience with it. It feels, and it can feel, and now the factory version, and I've ridden the Lawrence's bikes before with supercross setups, the factory version does feel quite plush. The versions that I've had, what privateers have access to, or at least what I've had access to in the past, does not feel plush. They get the stiff feel by just like making it straight up stiff. And then it feels like riding on wooden boards. So I was watching those races, basically picturing myself having to deal with that on a supercross setup. And I was just like, oh, thank God I own the Moto Academy and I don't have to worry about racing there, because it did not look fun. Now, with a moto setup, a good moto setup, yeah, maybe a bit more fun, because you could actually get bite and get traction in some places. So if I were like one of their riding coaches, I would 100% try to steer somebody towards a softer setup always, even in supercross. It's like compromise where you need to. Go with the softer stuff, because it's going to give you're going to be more comfortable, less arm pump, more feel in corners. Where you're going to lack a little bit is staying on top of whoops, but sometimes the softer setup eats up the whoops, which isn't a bad thing always, especially when they get really, really beat up. If you're super stiff, you're just deflecting off the tops and it just doesn't feel right. And then the big one is like the steep rhythm sections where with moto suspension, you will G out so bad and compress so bad through the stroke that it creates this really, really harsh deflection, which actually pitches you sideways half the time. So it just feels like you're getting spat out into a barrel roll. It's a really uncomfortable, awkward feeling. I don't know if anybody here can relate to that, but like 2 jumps back to back where you go a little deep on the first one, all of a sudden you're just getting spat out at the second one. Just like, what the heck was that? Imagine a rhythm section where you're jumping 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row and getting that feeling. It's not great. Yeah, so that's interesting. I'd be very curious to just go down the line and hear who was running what. The other thing I'm super interested by is like, I'm pretty sure that Deegan was running a paddle tire at that last round. It was a completely hard packed track. Oh, I guess there was like 2 or maybe 3 turns that had sand. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But clearly it worked. I'd have very little experience with that paddle tire. They've come out with like 15 different renditions of that thing since the last time I've even really ridden with one. So maybe it's just that good and that versatile, but man, insane to just, it seems kind of messed up and weird that they would, I don't know. Is it just to get the start? But then Deegan looks so freaking good on the bike. It's like, you couldn't tell. Let's see. Oh, there was a couple of other things, and I only got, what do I got? I got 5 minutes before I go live. Okay, let's see if I can rip through here. Podcast questions. We've got 2 of them. There's a video of Deegan I'll show you in a second, and then there is a question from Ethan, actually. Who is your favorite moto content creator? Gypsy Tales. Wish he had more proper video content of him not... Well, no, I guess I love his video content. He asks such good questions. He's a good listener. I think he has a nice voice. He's pretty articulate, although precision of language, he does swear, but it kind of sounds right coming from an Australian. It sounds much less harsh coming from an Australian. If I was saying the words that he would say, it would sound really not right. Yeah, I aspire to be as open-minded, and I think Jace is amazing for the sport. I think he's just getting started. At least he's the first person that pops in my head. So yeah, Jace, Gypsy Tales, go follow him, I guess. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, let me pull up. This was sent in by Yeeted and Deleted. This is a clip of Deegan scrubbing. Now, Ethan, you're going to have to, I guess, whoever posted this or got the shot, I guess just ask permission before we freaking share this clip so we don't get in trouble. AJ, can you break down the scrub technique? No feet on the pegs is wild. So this is the inside roller where Jet made the pass on Tomac, this at Vegas, into a big kind of rolling roller that's not that steep. This actually looks like a photocopy of Zach Osborne. I remember the first person I saw do this was Osborne years ago, 15 years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago. And the reason you would want to do a scrub like that on a jump like this, we'll let it run through a couple of different times here, is because the jump isn't steep. So the purpose of taking the outside foot off would be to allow the tires more easily to slide out and deflect the rebound of the suspension off to the side. On a steep jump, especially a short and steep jump, you wouldn't see the outside foot off the peg technique be utilized. You would only, I think, see it being done on this style of jump where he was almost having to force that bike to scrub. The inside foot coming off is just, it's easy to bring the seat up to the corner of kind of right under your knee. And just, it's easier to allow the bike movement when you do that, when that inside foot comes off. Now, also why it's okay to take your inside foot off on a jump that is like this is because when it's not as steep, it's much less likely that you'll catch the inside foot and get the inside foot ripped off. This was a short, steep jump. I would say do your best to, when you scrub, keep both feet on the pegs or as tight to the bike as possible, because when you start to get good at scrubbing, as soon as the inside foot begins to come off, like he's doing in this video, it's just asking for that thing to get snagged on the takeoff. Now, granted, he kind of brings it up and puts it under his handlebar, but still works great in this situation. And I think that that's an interesting breakdown because it's not often, I don't think I've ever really talked about that. But a specific situation to utilize that. And 1 out of 10 on the pretty scale, I personally don't really like how it looks. What about you guys? Okay. Hopefully whoever shot this says yes, that we can post it and you guys can actually see this. All right, we got 1 minute until I go live. So we're going to go to an ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be live inside the Moto Academy app. Before we get into the live stream, this episode is sponsored by LMNT. Drink lmnt.com/AJCat330 if you guys want to try it, and also try the flavors for free, because if you order using that link, drink lmnt.com/AJCat330, you get 8 flavors for free to test out. I'm hydrating this episode with citrus salt, which is a lemon flavor. Really good. No sugars, no artificial flavor, no sugar replacement either, is it? Yeah, just natural flavors. So nothing funky in here. And it tastes delish. What I will say, warning, you don't need a full pack. Like, let's say this is 18 ounces. I'm doing a half pack or less in this 18 ounce bottle right here. So not only will it last you longer, but just for those of you that are maybe a little sensitive to not wanting to drink something super salty, you don't need a full pack, but try it. This stuff has saved my life. I mean, between how much I sleep and how well I hydrate with LMNT, I feel good 100% of the time. And I'm really grateful for that, because my schedule is nuts. I travel like nobody's business, and I just have a lot going on. And to feel as good as I do all the time, I really, truly put a lot of that on the way that I hydrate. I really do. We got Michael in the chat, Dawson401, Dakota Broach, Komodo, James Williams, Hunter01, Colton Brady, Harry Little's in the chat. We got Ezra Tate. He's live straight from the Peloton. We got Dr. Greg in here. Top 10. Who got the whole shot, by the way? I didn't even call out who got the whole shot. Oh, Michael with the whole shot. Dawson401 and Dakota Broach rounding out the top 3. Ralph Eckhart in here. We got Jacob F. Zach Alley. We got Shake and Blake in here. Bruce Diesel. James Williams. Michael's at the bar trying to reset after breaking up a dogfight. Oh my gosh. Get a reset in, Michael. You need a reset. We got Harry Little. He's going to be here for the whole stream. Awesome. Gotta love it. Local A-class. He's been really hard at work at the Alley Cat Whole Shot School, and he just executed an absolutely flawless Perfect hole shot. Shout out local A class. Mark 2-4, also on the Alley Cat, and Arven's on the Alley Cat hole shot program. Shout out to you guys. Isaac Robertson. We got Brian Latimer in here. All right, we are going to talk jumps, and maybe a little bit different than I have in here. Maybe less so technique and more so mindset, strategy, commitment, all of those things. Kind of everything mental when it comes to jumping. I've been teaching it a little bit different. We got Cam Juarez in here. Got Whiskey off the start. He must have looped out. Unbelievable. Sorry, guys, reading comments, but I'll dive in here in a minute. Racing this weekend, James is asking how to recover when doing back-to-back motos. Hydrate, get element in there, or even maybe more than that. You need to get some sugar probably back in the system too. So just try to, like, soon as you get off the track, get in an electrolyte drink, get in something, maybe a little bit of sugar. Maybe you could have like a Chomps bar. And if it's hot, the pros would like hop in like a cold plunge in between. It's probably not a bad move. I hope my audio is working okay. Can you guys hear me all right? I'm going to bring everybody on here in a second. I know I said that last live stream and then I never did, because I have the phone Bluetooth, and yeah, I got the audio up, so it should work. I've got the phone Bluetooth into the Rodecaster Pro, so the audio should be dialed, and we're gonna test it. Coach Rob has the best information on recovering after motos. Yeah, Coach Rob, I don't know too much about him, but I'm pretty sure that he he's a fitness guy, right? Like hardcore fitness guy that specializes kind of in moto. So I'd imagine that would be Brian Latimer. Jumps are easy. That is very true. That is very true. Double trouble in the chat. Shaken Blake getting some football in. Shout out. I'm messing up Jake's math homework. Shout out, math. What are you working on? I'll help you. 91 degrees this weekend. And is that who asked the question? Oh, yeah. So maybe get a little cold plunge action in. That would help you. Dakota Broach. If it wasn't for TMA, I would have died this weekend. I had to ride a 450 instead of my 250 because of bike problems and placed 12th out of 40. Shout out Dakota. That is awesome. And yeah, hopefully you played it safe. Hopefully you didn't override that bad boy, because switching from a 250 to a 450, especially in race situation, can be slightly unsafe. So hopefully you did the right thing. You are still alive, so I'm assuming you did the right thing. Tori just bought a 2025 KX450. Congrats on the purchase. That's awesome. Dr. Plump, or Mr. Plump, Dr. Plump, he's probably got his PhD, I'm sure, is in the chat. Audio good. Thanks, guys. Xander Wood, last weekend I raced 3 different races, and they were number 7, number 9, and 11. Yikes. Why would they do it that way? Tell the race promoter to spread your classes out a little bit better. By the way, anybody drinking Element lately? Because I'm still on the Element train, still loving it more than ever, especially with all the traveling I've done lately. Like I just went to, maybe I could do a little trip recap and then I'll dive into jumps and I'll get you guys on here. But I went to Whistler, top 3 most beautiful places in the world. Whistler's up there. Switzerland is still probably hanging on to number 1, but Whistler is beautiful, and also, don't use this term often, but it's a vibe of a place. And the reason I say that is that you got Whistler Village, which is right at the base of the mountain. Whistler Village consists of either professional athletes, because it is the mountain bike mecca. You've got like pro enduro riders, they're dirt bike enduro riders. You've got pro skiers, pro snowboarders, and what else? You probably got a bunch of pro other things as well. And none of them are from Canada, it appears. It is as if everybody that lives there is from Australia or the UK, which people from Australia are already got a screw loose. And it just makes for a really, it's such a cool place. And then so we had class at Green River. which is 15 minutes outside of Whistler Village. So Coach Grant and myself, I think this was his first traveling class with me. We fly in to Vancouver, do the beautiful 2-hour drive from Vancouver to Whistler, get there. They upgrade us when we get to the hotel, and we're right in Whistler Village, overlooking the mountain and the village, and like a restaurant and some shops, and like Lululemon was right next to us. And that's how I would always find the hotel, was just by finding Lululemon. And we had a 2-story suite with a balcony and a hot tub. So the morning of class, just woke up because I was on a different time zone, went in the hot tub at 6:30 a.m., enjoyed a coffee in the hot tub, and then went to class 15 minutes down the road, where normally the track is like an hour drive in the morning from wherever I'm staying. Yeah, pretty amazing. And the track was like in a valley of mountains. I mean, beautiful. Flew straight from there to Salt Lake City. And then from Salt Lake City, I took a red eye back home. So just a lot of traveling, like overnight traveling. The red eyes really kill you, but the hydration helps. It really does. I did a Coach Rob class like a year ago. Yeah, so that's interesting. So he teaches like riding as well? That's where I'm confused, because I thought he was mostly a fitness person, but I think he shows up and does classes. Like, I'd be curious how he structures his day. Yeeted and deleted. I'll catch up on comments here, and then I'll pop you guys. We got Tony in the chat. Oh, Tony, you're not in Florida, are you? I saw good old Tamp Daddies was like just about underwater, so hopefully you're not in Tampa. Yeeted and deleted. When you line up at the start for both motos, do a breathing exercise on the gate. I like that. To fill your system with as much oxygen as possible. That will go a long way. Yes, it will. You can do the breathing exercise that I just mentioned recently. Where was I talking about that? Where I do 3 sets. It doesn't take long at all. 3-second exhale, 3-second inhale. So that's 1. You do a set of 10. On the 10th, you let out your exhale for as long as you can, and you hold it at the end. Not until you feel like you're going to kill yourself, but pretty long. And then you hold it as long as you can, realistically. Then you get a nice old inhale, as deep as you can, stomach first. And then, so you always want to do your inhales, inflate your stomach first, which a lot of people kind of like do their inhales just straight up from the chest. And hold the inhale as long as you can. And then that's your first set. You do 3 sets of that. Doesn't take long. You could do that on the starting gate. Probably help you, bring you into your zone a little bit, and also just get you oxygenated, as long as you don't do it too extreme to where you make yourself pass out. But yeah. All right, Tony. Yeah, hope you're not in Florida, Tony, although it could be just as bad in South Carolina or Georgia or wherever you are, and I just don't watch the news, so I don't know. Going through some comments. Okay. Dawson 401 is watching Ezra rip on his new 250, just getting sick with it. Miles, speaking of 450s, when will you have a chance to respond to my message? When did you send it? So I think like right now I'm probably 3 days back on my messages, maybe 4 days at most. But just a warning for you guys, because this has happened a couple of times to a couple of different people. If you're looking for a timely response, don't send another message. Like, let's say don't send a message and then a day and a half later send another one, or 2 days later send another one. Because what that does, I go from the bottom up when I respond, because I'm responding in chronological order from oldest to newest on my messages. I respond to every message no matter what, but I go from old to new. So if you send another message, it will bump you to the top, further away from what I'm seeing. So you'll be running away from my messages, if that makes sense. I've had a few people do that to where I'm like, oh, you kept bumping yourself away from me. So by the time I got back to you, it was almost 2 weeks. Let's see. Jared, I'm racing next weekend at ECMX. Is that the Etchicone place, maybe? The track is soft sand. How should I prepare for that? Maybe a few clicks stiffer could help. Sag being changed definitely can help, going from like 105 to 110. Pretty drastic change, but to squat the rear a little bit more. Paddle tire will help probably more than anything. Yeah, and that's about it. And then remember that the throttle is your brakes. That's one thing that took me forever to learn. Mr. Plump is loving LMNT. We got local A class on the LMNT train. James Williams, LMNT is so salty for my taste. Yeah, try that. If you haven't already, you have to dilute it a bit more, especially if you're drinking it consistently anyways, which I would kind of recommend. I mean, I put it in my water all day long, but I'm doing like a third mix. So by the end of the day, on a normal day where I'm not really super active, just hanging with Millie, did a 30-minute gym sesh, I'm probably drinking 3 packs, lightly diluted all day. And yeah, I seem to be firing on all syllables as far as I can tell. Let me just real quick, guys. I don't want to offend anybody, but KTMs are hard to ride. What is it with these new KTMs? Every time I get on one at a class, the thing either stalls out so easily. It doesn't matter if they've got the spring conversion suspension or the air. The suspension is not good. And I don't know if I've ever ridden one that has good suspension. Oh, no, yes, I have. Tyler Stepik. He had a KTM that had really good suspension. And they're just hard to be smooth on. And lately, I've been, I guess, stealing more Yamahas. And obviously, I'd steal the Hondas often, too. And they're just so easy to ride compared to the KTMs. Have you guys had those same thoughts? KTM people, for those of you that are on here, do you agree? Not 2-strokes. The 2-stroke KTMs I've really, really liked. And honestly, the suspension feels a little bit easier and more plush on the 2-strokes as well somehow. But the 4-stroke KTMs that I've been riding, the 250s, 350s, 450s, have not felt super great to me lately. Agree? Disagree? What are you guys thinking on that? Double Trouble, you should train with Ezra for Supercross. I know. I need a facility soon. Because Ezra is like the perfect candidate. Somebody that could be training for their own efforts to turn pro in Supercross, and I could help an athlete like that. And then he has interest in training others as well. So to up his coaching level, to up his riding level, those are the exact type of people that I would want to have as trainers at our place. So I'm ready for a facility. I'm ready. It's going to happen soon. It's just we're being strategic and we're prioritizing other things first, getting the team really, really solid and put together, which is we're getting in more of a better place every day with that. Leveling up the website, working on conversion rate in the website. We're just working on all of the things to like really make the machine tick. Where, man, in hindsight, and I know I've said this before, but in hindsight, had the facility in Georgia had worked out at that time, between having the baby, when we were having the baby, and we just weren't ready for it. Well, we would have figured it out, just like I do everything. But I am so grateful that didn't work out. So off topic, but if you guys have just experienced or experiencing anything where it feels like you thought for sure something was going to happen and then it didn't go your way, there is always a reason for it. So look for that reason. And always. It doesn't matter how bad something seems. Everything happens, and everything happens for a reason. Even if you just can't judge it as bad. You just gotta search for the positive. You'll then find the positive, and you'll move on. And then guess what? A month later, a year later, 5 years later, you'll look back and you'll go, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't so bad. It actually, thank God that happened, because it made so X, Y, and Z could happen." Okay. Sorry, I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Sorry if I'm missing some comments. It'll just take me forever. If you guys want to talk jumping with me and you want to pop on the podcast, or if I just missed, no, screw it. I'm going to force you guys. If you want to ask your question, send an emoji and I'm going to bring you on here and we're going to talk jumps. So if you have a jumping question, toss an emoji in here. And while I'm waiting for your emojis to float in, I want to talk commitment really quick. I get asked a lot of the same questions at class. The same questions would be, AJ, how do I build confidence with jumping? And the answer always is that it requires you to have a strategy of progressing on jumps that make sense. Because what I see all too often is the rider that I think maybe compares themselves to either the progression of others or the jumps that other people are doing, and kind of worried about what's going on outside of them. And so then they skip levels of progression, and all of a sudden they're hitting a jump that isn't as forgiving, and they don't commit. For whatever reason, they don't commit, right? They're afraid to case it. They're afraid of overshooting it. You need to be really, really strategic. Everybody here, and this applies for any level of riding, because in Supercross, I experience those same exact feelings as some of you in this chat might be experiencing with a 25-foot tabletop. Or some of you guys in this chat might be experiencing with that double at your local track. Like, you haven't hit that double yet, but you really, really want to. It's all the same. Just there's levels of it, right? Commitment and the lack thereof is what gets you hurt. And the lack of commitment comes when you aren't ready to do the jump. I think that mentally you can really, really lock in and commit only when you know for sure what the heck you're doing, right? You can't really, people say fake it till you make it. That's not really a situation where you can fake it till you make it. You got to know. And at least coming from personal experience, that's why I have confidence in jumps. And I tell people this, I'm like, man, it would really take an act of something going horribly wrong. Like the bike would have to malfunction, or a kangaroo would have to come bouncing across the track. It would take a lot for me to crash on a jump that I'm attempting, right? And I don't think the same could be said for a lot of other people, unfortunately. I think a lot of people just go for stuff and just wing it and kind of kamikaze it and kind of toss a Hail Mary out there. And yeah, so then it's just like a 50-50 coin toss of, am I going to bite the dust, or are we going to be okay? And that, folks, is not Moto Academy approved. Anybody want to hop on? Did I miss any emojis come through? By the way, I've got a new book. Finished it already, but it was very good. Very easy read. It is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He's a Roman emperor about 2,000 years ago. And it's meditations, so I think the whole point was it's just kind of his thoughts chunked out, kind of sometimes even disconnected from each other, but it's nice in the sense that you can pop it open. Robert Greene book that I read, Daily Laws, was the same way, where you could pop it open, just read a page, pop it open, just read a paragraph. Especially for me with having Millie at home. If I'm reading at home, I might be able to only read a page sometimes if I'm lucky. But you can do that and it makes sense. You're not following a storyline or anything confusing. And man, it's amazing that 2,000 years ago, somebody was that wise. I think that we're so ignorant now to think that for some reason we're smarter than we ever were. I think if anything, we've just lost touch with, certainly, society as a whole is lost touch with actually where our focus should be. And you read the meditations book and that is exactly, I resonate with every single thing said in that book. And it's exactly how I have learned to think after reading the hundreds and hundreds of books that I've read over the last couple of years. So yeah, it's just amazing that 2,000 years ago, he was writing that. Okay. Let's see. I saw an emoji come in a second ago. There are a lot of comments. Shout out all the comments. Bull786 just got a massive hole shot. Harry Little, I'm going to bring you in here. If anybody else wants to hop in the live chat, ask questions, just hang out. I would love to keep it on the topic of jumps if we can. But I want to... Double Trouble said, whoops are scarier to me to commit to than jumps. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think supercross whoops, especially, that would be true. Supercross whoops for most people are the scariest part of the whole shebang. We got Harry in the chat.
How you doing?
Oh, there he is. I can hear you beautifully too. Are you in Australia?
New Zealand.
Oh, even better. What time is it there?
Yeah, it's very sunny out today.
Is it?
Snowman.
Is it 6 a.m.?
9:30 in the morning.
Gosh, that's a time difference.
9:30, so it's kind of perfect timing for a jump on the live stream.
Oh, yeah, it is. What are you up to today? So what, you're a day ahead. It's what, Friday there?
Yeah, so today's Friday.
What are you up to on a Friday?
Well, no work today. It was a nice day off, so work on the bike was the key. But one of the main things I got as a question. So I struggle with rutted takeoffs, and trying to keep my head looking forward above the jump. And I want to know how I can stop myself kind of overthinking while going up the takeoff, because the ruts that we have are quite long sand tracks, and the ruts are very, very long. And so I'm always having to try like 30 different ruts going across the trail. I'm going to try and figure out, commit to one. What would be something I could try to like help with commitment to push through going through the trails, like going through that like rut and not feeling your front wheel's going to flip either side?
Now, any specific kind of jump? Like, are these tabletops or doubles or triples, or what are we working with?
Long takeoff tabletops, long takeoff doubles.
Yeah.
Basically just like a long ski jump kind of thing.
Yeah. That is, honestly, what's funny, you're from Eastern Australia, probably?
No, so I'm from the UK originally, but I moved to New Zealand 5 years ago, or coming up 6 years ago. So,
oh, okay.
I haven't moved there since.
Have you ever, by chance, gone to the Man Jump Up race in Australia, south of Perth?
No, I've listened to Gypsy's podcast and stuff. He's made a big rave about it, and so eventually I want to go to Oz and race over there. It would be cool, but at the moment, starting away in small New Zealand and hopefully kind of work our way out, which would be key. So
yeah, your accent's crazy. It's such a mix of your accent sounds for sure more New Zealand than it does UK. How long have you been there for again?
6 years now.
Oh, that's it.
But
wow.
We all immigrated over here, so yeah, I haven't been back once. So you hang out with Aussies and Kiwis every day, you definitely pick it up pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, I was just in Whistler and they were all Australian, and it's funny when they start talking to each other, it gets way worse too. Like an Australian talking to me, I can understand, and then as soon as the Australian starts talking to another Australian, forget about it. I'm like, I don't know what they're even saying.
Yeah. No, you're pretty. Like, I've got a lot of buddies out in Whistler and stuff, and you pick them up real easy. Like 1 minute you'd be, oh yeah, that's definitely a Canadian American, and then as soon as it comes to Aussie Kiwi, there's no differential. It's just kind of that slang pretty much.
That's funny. So reason I said Manji is there was one jump specifically there. They had like a sand section where you come out of a right-hander and the ruts, and I guess I've had a lot of experiences with this, but for some reason I just thought of that one. Must be your accent. And the ruts were what felt like forever long. That's the hardest. And what about the landings? Are the landings the same way, or the landings kind of just sand or whatever, you can land wherever?
Yeah, landings are pretty short, like especially one of the tabletops is basically a 90-degree left-hander, and it comes like a long straightaway, but like quite a lot of like whoops and kind of square edges. So obviously where the sand has been digging in, it's been kind of catching the square edges, and so when you're riding it, you're basically hitting square edge curbs everywhere, all the way along this straight, and it's kind of just super long, just traversing long sand ruts all the way up the takeoff. And so every time I got there, I try to keep my head looking forward as far as I can, trying to spot the takeoff. But I just seem to can't try to focus on one straight line and try and block out the rest of the lines and try to focus and not feel like I'm going to swap up the takeoff or something like that. And so that's something that's always been on my mind, of overthinking quite a lot, I believe.
Yeah. So me personally, this would kind of be my process. So tall gear, low RPM, especially if you're dealing with sand and square edge crap. So you don't want to have wheel spin, because that's just going to make the bike even more unpredictable. Really tight with my toes. That will just give me confidence that like my foot's not going to get snagged. And then honestly, it's probably more of like, not just head looking forward, obviously that's important, but like chest being puffed out and
Yeah.
up, over exaggerating the hips maybe more than anything. Because the more my
Yeah.
hips are over exaggerated, the more confidence I'll have that like that bike could get a nasty kick or cross rut out of nowhere, and then I would be fine. I think
Yeah.
that's
To
the
really kind of
biggest.
like extend your hip that way.
Yeah, again, at least coming from my experience, and like supercross ruts are one thing. It's not usually sand. It's usually just deep ruts that are at least tacky. That's pretty not easy, but it's easier.
Yeah.
In outdoors, you're like Red Bud or Millville or something that you're dealing with loam and it's unpredictable ruts. You just have to, I guess, plan for the kick and
Yeah.
not try to be so precise. The rut that I would choose would always be the most shallow one that I could find, I guess.
Yeah.
So pick the best of the worst. But yeah, the hips are really important. And then yeah, you're saying you're just kind of getting mentally a little bit hung up. That's the
Yeah,
hardest.
I think
That's the
losing
hardest part.
concentration is something that I probably struggle with, is trying to foresee, like, kind of, especially because the ruts are so long. I want to see if I can try to keep my head obviously focused in the one single rut. And I think when you have a lot of distractions of probably other people, I'm trying to focus on like myself solely, which is something I'm trying to really work on.
Yeah, I can relate to all of those problems. So yeah, I mean, maybe that next step is just focus, take the focus away from worrying about whatever the heck you're worrying about and just try to puff your
Yeah.
chest out more and get the hips into a better spot. And maybe you'll experience a few cross ruts or kicks and realize that
Yeah.
it does a lot less. And the bike will, even if it does react, you just can bring it back so much easier. It's always the moments of the oh crap moments where all of a sudden you like hunker down and you death grip
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
hold your breath and then your back hunches and it's like everything you do everything wrong all at once. And that
Yeah.
is what's going to make the bike kick.
Yeah. I've got heaps of videos of me, my partner filming kind of just alongside this takeoff and tabletop. And when I'm riding, it feels like I'm not doing it. It feels like I'm trying to like practice the movement that I'll be obviously you've been kind of preaching about, and obviously it's definitely making a difference. I notice it massively. But it feels like I do it up the takeoff, and it feels like when I get to the very edge, like as soon as I'm about to take off, I immediately just go like panic and push away.
Yeah.
And so committing to kind of keeping your head over the bars is something is I find really struggle with sometimes. I'm trying to practice it a lot more, but yeah, just there's all these little kind of individual things that definitely make it obviously 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Obviously, everything adds up in the end.
Have you done the obvious progression step, which be just stop worrying about clearing some of those jumps for a minute and just go halfway or
Yeah,
whatever and just really make sure that you're not doing the stupid push away?
yeah. I've been looking at videos and trying to go over myself at the same time. ADHD is a hell of a problem, so you definitely have to try and figure those things out sometimes. But yeah, it's just trying to keep on top of those things. But when riding downhill, riding BMX, running all these other sports, I find I can not hit no problem. When it comes to motor, it's just something. It's just one of those weird things that just can't really just get over the edge of just going, oh, it's fine. I've got 200 and some odd mil of travel. I've got heaving the front wheel up, landing like perfectly in the back wheel to kind of just nice right away. Just all these little things struggle to try and just piece together. And I feel like just for me personally, that it's a very hard thing to keep on top of.
Yeah, an easy mantra to repeat to yourself too, and this is something that Jet told me when he was really young. He was probably 17 at the time. He just goes, just let the bike push you around the track. Like,
Yeah,
at all times, there's no exceptions to that. Like, let the bike push you around the track. So that requires at all times your chest and head to be that far to the front. As soon as like you see that gnarly section, whether it's mud or sand or ruts, or technical section in the woods, it's always everybody's, no matter how good you are, reaction to do the whole one of these and turn into a
yeah.
lawn dart. And it just makes it 100 times
But
more
front end
difficult.
it,
So it's just like, all right, let the bike push me around the track. Let the bike push me around the track. And yeah, I would say it just at that point going to take repetition of staying in the right position and realizing, oh, all right, well, nothing weird did
Yeah, well, I'm
happen.
glad I joined on the stream because it's kind of perfect timing, because all the other things I seem to, it works perfectly fine. I can keep the balance on the bike and not drop a foot in the corner, but jumps is just one of those things that I've just always struggled with. But with just track movement and bike movement, I can kind of move the bike underneath me perfectly fine. But just the jumps is just kind of one of those things. So I'm glad I'm here to listen to what you got going, and hopefully everyone else has got some good content to say.
Yeah, just stick with it. Be patient. That is what you're speaking of is by far the most. I usually say jumps are easy, right? That's the one part where it's like, okay, no, I mean, that's not easy. In fact,
Yeah.
it's pretty gnarly and crazy if you think about it. The fact that you've got to pick one of 30 ruts and then try to keep, there's a lot going on there compared to most of what we ride in the US, especially when we're at classes. Like everything is well manicured and pretty done.
Yeah, this track doesn't get prepped at all. This is track skin. We have one race a year, and the rest of it is just an unprepped sand track that's pretty much just kind of left to. The only time we can get to ride when it's prepped is when it rains. And other than that, we're pretty much just riding just a sand track with big ass rocks on the ground. So yeah, there isn't really much for trying wise. There's a cool little sort of beach section just behind my house that I can ride with turn tracks to keep. That's the first thing I do when I'm back riding again. But yeah, that's kind of just yeah, we didn't really have much options. Next track's 2.5 hours away, which is the full sand track.
Are you riding today or are you just working on the bike today?
Just working on the bike today. I'm building, so I went from a 250 to a 150 two-stroke, and I'm doing a complete rebuild with my dad. So I'm doing so it's the first ever time that I'm going full built suspension. So I've done full K-Tech revalves and doing the raw frame. So I've posted it before, but I did all the gold valves and then roared the frame up, blacked it all up, did the forks. All completely rebuilt, all powder coated, and then partially the engine with the field.
Oh, so you really know what you're doing. Are you went from 250 two-stroke?
More work on the bike.
You went from a 250 two-stroke to the 150 or 250 four-stroke?
150 two-stroke.
No, but before that you said 250. 250.
I had a Cowie 250 2020. So it was a full stock bike. I've never had any of the. This is the full first bike I've ever ridden. So full stock when we built it together, me and my dad.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's sick. And then when's the next time you ride? This weekend or no? Probably not.
Well, I'm waiting for a crankshaft seal to turn up, but if I can ride my dad's bike just to ride around to get some hours on would be pretty good. But just going back to sand track, so I've actually just watching all the other live streams you've done and everyone having so many issues of going back riding for the first time. You recommend going just sole month, just doing turn track. So that's the plan. Once I get this bike ready to go, is we just practicing that and then straight to the track after a month of turn tracks.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with gnarly, rutted, sandy jump faces. Don't start there. start on a corner track or something like that for a day or two, especially new bike.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sweet.
I'll let someone else jump on and I'll get you guys to have a good one.
Yeah, yes sir. Hey, great chatting with you. I don't know how to boot you unless you know how to.
So I can leave from here, I think.
Can you?
Awesome. See you guys.
All right, see you, man. Oh, I can remove his speaker too. That's cool. Okay, I didn't know I could do that. Learning something new every day. Shout out Harry from the UK, now living in New Zealand. That's a confusing accent. Because I would have guessed Australian, but Australia and New Zealand, definitely not the same thing. But pretty close. Pretty close. If anybody else wants to hop on, toss an emoji in. We're going to go for about 15 more minutes, and then I've got dinner. When he said, he didn't sound totally UK to me until he said massively. And when he said massively, I was like, yep, he's from the UK. Certain words you can hear it. Mark 2.4, I got to be honest, especially after meeting Liv, I need Millie to have an English accent. How do I go about doing that? Do we have to move? Does Liv want to babysit somehow? That would be that's a great idea. You guys want to move here and then we'll hire Liv as a full-time babysitter. Deal? She would love that. Because there's something so proper about it, or as Liv would say, posh. We need Millie to be speaking like that. Badly. I'm reading a book, guys. Sorry, I'm not going to actually read the book. Toss it in. Oh, we got emojis flying in here. Sorry. Now all the UK people are going to want to move. Hey, so we've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm gonna join these people in a second. We just bought our place in Connecticut, boarding school. Danny Youngblood, good idea. Or just bring her and just drop her off in Oxford. Does Oxford have school for young kids? We just bought this place in Connecticut a year ago. After my Whistler Salt Lake City trip, I and Allie is on board, officially decided that I think we're going to sell the Connecticut house or rent the Connecticut house and try and move somewhere to the mountains. Now, we still got to figure out facility situation, but kind of what I had in mind is that we could find a property big enough. Doesn't have to be very big at all. It could be 5-10 acres to have a guest house and have a track built, and then have it be, I really want it to be either waterfront and a lake or a brook or stream or something, and mountain views somewhere out west, and have it be a retreat. So that way we can invite Moto Academy members. You guys can come ride a bike. We'll have Starks there or whatever, and just create like a retreat experience. In addition to, obviously, the community idea is still going to very much be a thing. But for our personal home, I thought that would be a really cool idea. Like being able to get you guys a little bit a part of that experience and have a retreat, especially all the direction that we're going, having a sauna, having cold plunges, having hot tubs, having the mountains. Yeah. It just got retreat written all over it. Just reading books the whole time. So you guys can come for a retreat and I'll just read you a book the whole time by the fireplace. And that's going to be the retreat. And it'll be $100,000. Just kidding. I think that would be just like a cool trip giveaway. Mountain View MX is for sale. I saw that double treble. Brian said, my dad always said having a business in your yard is a bad idea. I know. Yeah. Well, I feel like there'd be a cool way of doing that though, because in the guest house, if we had like an au pair or a nanny or something, if we have multiple kids and somebody that could live in the guest house to help, and the nanny here actually had offered to like help clean and do stuff as well. So it was like, man, okay, we could use that person as also like a host for guests. It just seems like it would make a lot of sense if we had a property that was spread out enough to where we completely still had our privacy. And I would just do it very, very sporadically, like if it were once a quarter, I opened it up to where it was like I sold 2 spots and did 1 giveaway spot. So it was like 3 people, super private, retreat style, have the guest house or the other house on the other side of the property. So it's disconnected. Yeah. So that's kind of where my head's at. And I would love to do that out west. So, yeah. And we'll have a Connecticut house for sale. If anybody wants a beautiful home in South Glastonbury, Connecticut, let us know. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to bring some people on. Xander Wood, do you have any tips for the Ponca City National Race? Ooh. Well, no. Just like any specific race. I don't remember that track enough to be able to give you advice on that track. Advice would be just don't try too hard. Stick to your game plan. Don't compare yourself to others speed-wise. Somebody's faster than you. Sometimes you need to let them be faster than you. All right, I'm going to bring in 2 OGs, absolute OGs, unquestionable OGs, one of which has just started riding his dirt bike again, I think. Hey, are you there? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, beautiful. What are you doing?
I could barely hear you. Hold on one moment. I'm not sure if that's my phone or your phone.
I can hear you perfectly, at least. It might be my phone.
Oh, okay.
Am I coming through your truck?
You just picked up the kids. I'm almost home.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Local A class, I can't see you or hear you. So is this a me problem? I got my router down here. I should be okay.
I barely hear you. You know what? I'm gonna try to put in my AirPods and see if that makes a difference. Hold
Yep. AirPods usually fix it. Harry said, my honest review of living in the mountains is that I'd never leave. My mental health is 100% better. Yeah. There's something about the mountains. Like there's something about the ocean as well, but there's something about the mountains. There really is. And that's probably why all those yogis or monks or whatever live up in the Himalayas. Like there's just something special about the mountains. We got those AirPods in?
I think we're dialed now.
Oh,
How is
now.
that?
Oh, I can hear you way better too.
Oh, I can hear you like I've never heard you before, man.
Unbelievable. How's your day? What are you up to?
Hey, man, just picked up the kids from school. My day is going great. Hey, on that mountain retreat idea, first off, like that's a dope idea. Secondly, I would recommend Colorado because you've got the mountains, you've got lakes, you've got rivers, you've got 320 plus days a year of sunshine. You've got the cold weather to do cold plunges in. And yeah, it's centrally located, so you can have people come in from the west and the east. So I think that's just the best selection for you, man.
I don't disagree with you. Is there local A class? What's up, dude?
Oh, what up, everybody?
Man, everybody's in their vehicles.
Yeah, I'm just at work. You know me,
Just that word.
chilling at work per usual.
Komodo, what would be your recommendation on specific location in Colorado? If you're talking like mountains, like Breckenridge, Aspen direction, is that too far? Like, is that not even necessary?
So I have a friend that, as a matter of fact, it's the track that I crashed on. He has a property that he bought in Longmont. It's next to Erie, Colorado. I'll have to possibly send you a picture of the area, but
Whoa, shout out.
area,
Allie
a lot
just
of
got the whole shot.
farmland.
Sorry to interrupt. Allie just got the whole shot. Round of applause.
Let's
Holy.
go.
Wow. Her reaction time is insane. Sorry, Komodo. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So like, my buddy's property, he has probably, I think he has 100 acres. I think he picked up, and it was a previous ranch slash horse. I don't know. They raised horses on it. Whatever.
Yeah,
They had a
horse
big
ranch.
barn in there. Had a horse ranch. Had a side set in there, and main home. Property for about $3 million, and it is on a flat land. He built a track in the backyard. It's on a reservoir, which this is the closest we get to lakes, really, unless you go to the mountains. And it's literally perfectly viewed in front of the Rocky Mountains. Like, it's the dopest place ever to live and ride. Like, so it's available here. Just saying.
Yeah. So, and I think I think I want the Rocky Mountains, right? And I was looking at the map today. So the places on my radar would be Colorado. I think the upper corner of Utah, is it running through there? Wyoming, Idaho. Like you kind of have the corners of all of those states. I feel like because the Rockies are kind of coming down and across. So we've just got a lot of different places to go explore. West side of the Rockies, those four corner areas are epic, is what Austin says. Yeah, so those are all kind of on the radar, like where Yellowstone is. Then you have Idaho. You've got like Jackson, Wyoming, just west of or just south of Yellowstone. Yeah, we just need to explore more. The only negative to when you go that far north, that's like no joke, cold, and you're probably missing. Like you're not getting full blown 5 or 6 months out of the year winters, right, Komodo? Like you're just missing a couple months maybe at most.
We don't miss months in Colorado.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah, no, we don't miss.
We don't miss months.
We ride 12 months out of the year.
Oh, yeah. See, that's okay.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, so the thing about it is that when it snows in Colorado, it only lasts for like a day, 2 days, right? And then like once the snow melts, and this I'm talking about a big storm. Like most of the time, if it snows, it's melted like the next day. It doesn't hang around, right? Unless you're like in the mountains and stuff where you're not getting like your roads plowed and stuff like that. But in the city or close near it, like it doesn't hang around. So like then after that, maybe a week later, if it was like a deep snow, it's all melted by that time, and it's back to like 10 degrees up, like whatever it was at, and there's no snow around, like at least on the tracks. And so like you get the winter, but it's not like it hangs around and stops you from doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you want, you just go up into the mountains and you can do your, it's kind of like Mammoth or something where when people live in California, they could just go to Mammoth and hit the, go snowboarding and then be riding the same day or the next day. That's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. I actually live like I want to say like 3 hours south of Mammoth.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and funny enough, I've never been.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because every time I want to go, they're like, "Oh, it's closed." I'm like, all right, sick, and then it has like 22 feet of snow.
Yeah,
like snows over the telephone poles. It's crazy.
I mean, the mountains, man, are no joke. I don't know if I'm cut out to live in the mountains. I want to live in the mountains, but then when I'm like, do I really? Because I am a absolute wimp. And all of like,
aren't you a snowbird?
Yeah, no. Well, we were, but we just sold our Florida place yesterday or day before, 3 days ago or something. Good timing, by the way, because I think there's a big storm hitting, like right, kind of pretty close to where our condo was. Komodo, you are just coming back from an injury. You've ridden, I don't know how many times since, couldn't be too many times. Have you got back to jumping?
Yes.
And if so, walk me through kind of like strategy. How long were you off the bike and what was your strategy coming back, especially the strategy getting back to jumping? I'd love to hear it.
Okay. First off, can you hear me? Because it's saying my live stream disconnected.
You were cutting out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Your visual is cutting out quite a bit. I think your audio is fine.
Okay. Hold on one moment. Hold on.
But I was also looking to move into like Colorado Springs.
Oh, are you?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Like my girlfriend and I have been talking about it like maybe in a couple of years. Just because like the California, it just kind of sucks here. So we were like, well, Colorado Springs sounds really nice, and I've been doing a little bit of research on it. So
it's just tough to choose one place, and it's also a slippery slope because you're chasing, a lot of people I think move around and are like chasing happiness thinking that a location is going to bring them that. And I don't want Allie or myself to fall into that trap either. But what I always tell Allie is, I'm like, well, okay, well, where we are in Connecticut is quite nice. And we live in an awesome neighborhood. Like you can't complain about it, but is it the most beautiful place in the world? Like, no. There's definitely, we've done enough traveling to know that there are more beautiful places than where we're living in Connecticut. And it's like, doing what I do, technically, I can kind of live anywhere as long as I'm within reach of an airport. Why don't we live somewhere stupidly beautiful? That's kind of my weird reasoning, I guess.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's why that's like the main thing why we wanted to move was where we're at now is we're like almost 2.5, like 3 hours from LAX. And that's like the only like major airport that's like close.
That's far.
And that drive sucks.
Yeah, that's too far.
Yeah, we were trying to move somewhere where there's like at least access to like a smaller airport that you can like transfer to a bigger one and then fly wherever, just because it sucks.
Yeah.
Do it. Awful.
Do it.
Yeah.
Komodo,
she just wants to wait a little bit longer to get more secured in her job, but yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Komodo, your video at least looks a million times better right now.
Oh man, shout out to T-Mobile, man. Yeah, coming through clutch. So
walk me through it.
To answer your question, Uh, so I've ridden 3 times,
Okay.
and the first ride I went to call it the field by my house, and I just wanted to get the feeling back on the bike before I, went and hit a motocross track. So that went really well. I was surprised because it wasn't quite. This is like the first time I ever had an injury where I was like off the bike for a period of time, so I didn't really like know what that was like to come back. And getting back, I was shocked because it was like, oh, I really do know how to ride a dirt bike. Because it's like you kind of, for me, I kind of forgot it because it was just like 4 months off the bike, like wasn't a part of my life, So that was a good feeling. And then I waited like 2 weeks to hit up the track, and I went to a track that specifically I was really familiar with, and
Smart.
it's called Aztec down in Colorado Springs. And the reason why I chose that track is because I wanted to choose a track that had low risk, and I knew it like the back of my hand where there weren't any changes that I would have to adapt to or anything like that. So I selected that track just for safety reasons as my first ride back. And then my mindset going into that was like, number one, I just want to not crash. Like, I don't want to go down on the shoulder. Like, that was like my number one goal. So my game plan to accomplish that was, okay, keep your feet on. Put the note on my bar again, and I was like, my strategy was to keep my feet on the whole entire day, and then to just practice standing up, just to eliminate like any strange possibilities of going down for some dumb reason. So didn't want to tip over the corner, fall on my shoulder. I just was trying to avoid all that. And can you hear me? I feel like my screen cut off again.
Yeah, your visual
Oh.
sucks, but I can hear you for the most part.
Yeah, and so I went out that. Yeah, okay, you suck, T-Mobile. All right, so basically, I had a good day. I didn't go down, not even one time, and it was interesting because I learned a big lesson with the crash, which was you don't go one more lap. Like, you don't just say, hey, like, oh, I'm gonna go out one more time or whatever. Like, I learned that was the biggest lesson I learned, because if I would have just listened to my conscience about when to stop and when not to stop, I wouldn't have crashed. And so like I also went into the day with the mindset of when I'm done, I'm done. I'm not out here to push anything. Like, I just want to go get familiar with the bike and ride smooth, and that's it. So I really didn't ride that long. I think I probably rode a total of 30 minutes, and it was a good day. Like, there was when I was riding on the track, and I'm like, well, I should go do more. But then I was like, nah, I'm good. So I packed it up and left. And then I didn't really do like any big jumps or anything. I just was chilling. And then I waited like another 2 weeks, and I went out to another track that was different. And still, I just took it easy. I wasn't worried about going fast. I wasn't worried about like, trying to hit every jump, or not that I worried about it before. I wasn't trying to go in that same flow. I was just focused on just keeping 2 wheels and putting my feet on the pegs. And yeah, that was another good weekend. And that's just been, my approach back on the bike is just not to rush anything, to let my confidence build naturally, and come back with the intention of riding the right way. And it was weird because like I did find myself keeping my feet on a lot more than I had in the past. Like, it was just kind of natural because I had been off the bike, and I just like intentionally said, hey, I'm going to keep my feet on no matter what. And I think because I slowed it down and I focused on that, like, that's probably why all the times went so well. So.
And remind me again, how much time off the bike was it?
4 months.
Yeah, that's quite a while. A couple of other questions. One, those first 3 rides back, did you go solo or did you go with other people?
So I met people there, but I mean,
even the very first time?
Solo. I wasn't riding with anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, well, my son was there, but it was a field ride, like I was like a turn track kind of deal.
Yep, cool. And then what was my other question? Oh, so day number 2 back and day number 3 back, when you're on a track, were you clearing any of the jumps, or were you not even bothering with that?
So yeah, I didn't skip, like on the first track. There's only one triple that I skipped, I could have done, but again, that wasn't really my focus. I was just kind of doubling into on the camel's back kind of deal. Not camel's back, but it's like a step up and then down into a lower triple. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I was jumping normal jumps, but there were some large triples like that I wasn't doing just because I was like, it would have been too much. It felt like too much effort. So on those, I just backed off. But I was still like jumping like basic doubles and like tables and stuff.
Yeah, and at least from personal experience, I can say that it is hard sometimes to make that decision to not do another session or not do another lap, especially when you feel like excited to be back and also still kind of fresh towards the end of your session, where you're like, oh, I could totally keep going. But it's like, well, hang on. Do I really need to? What am I going to gain from this? And what is there to lose? And then the same thing with doing jumps. And jumps, maybe more than anything, get me. I find myself at classes sometimes where there'll be like 2 tabletops, and I'm like asking the class, hey, has anybody jumped both of these tabletops yet? Class, no, nobody's done that yet. And in my head, I'm just like, oh, well, I got to do that. But it's like, if I just have a little bit more of a conversation with myself, all I'd have to ask is like, okay, well, why? Like, what am I gonna? I'm on some borrowed bike, right? I don't even know if the spokes are tight, and like, what am I really gonna gain from this? So I guess that what I've learned over the years is it is helpful to have those conversations with yourself sometimes, to just ask why a few times and like, okay, why? And then you can just start to just not let the ego just take charge and like, oh, we're doing this jump, and oh no, we're going to keep going until I can't breathe or stand up anymore. And now at age 31, it's just like, no, okay, no need to do that jump. And I am totally okay pulling off the track right now. That's the type of behavior that keeps you safe.
And it's still, yeah. And it's still, I try to look at it from the perspective, I just want to have fun on the bike. Like, what it's all about for me. Did I enjoy being on the bike?
Yeah. And Komodo, T-Mobile is shafting you at the moment.
Yeah, and so is Comcast because my internet's down.
So is Comcast.
Oh, wait, hold on. Dude, okay, so I think I should be good now. It finally kicked back on, so I got my Wi-Fi connected.
Okay.
But anyways, don't let that stop you from moving to Colorado, right? But anyways, but my point, what I was saying is that, like, I was trying to be present of why I'm doing what I'm doing in the first place. Like, was I having fun? And I just wanted to have fun, and I'm not out here trying to go to Loretta's, and I'm not out here trying to go whoop jet in a 30-minute moto. Like, I just wanted to have an enjoyable time on my bike. And I think with that mindset, it made it enjoyable for one, but then it too, like you said, it kept me safe. And I'm telling you, maybe I'm kind of grateful for the injury, because before, I think I had the mindset of, like, I was having fun, but I think I was so focused on getting better that sometimes like I would lose track of the enjoyment of it, because not, and to a degree, it's not bad to be focused on getting better all the time and working on certain things. But sometimes for me, like, I get my mind so cluttered and focused on all these things that I just lose sight of, I get to ride my dirt bike and have enjoyed this like moment, and that's kind of been the shift in my mindset in that return.
Yeah, that's great. And it just requires consistent self-reflection. It's really easy to get caught up in the whole process. And then this was anything, by the way. I'm happy you said that, because it's not just riding progression. It could be career progression or any of it, right? People get so wrapped up within the process of doing what they think they should be doing, and they don't self-reflect for whatever time period it is, a week, a month, a year, 10 years. And then next thing you know, they're kind of like, wait, what am I doing here? And a lot of times, and it's been the same way for me in the past, it did take an injury sometimes for me in moto to have those realizations. But it's a beautiful thing because you can come back after that time off. And even if you kind of almost disconnect quite a bit consciously from anything moto, like I don't know if you were watching it or how active you were in the app at that time, any of that. Let's say you had 0. You could still come back on the bike and pick up where you left off. But if you have like daily or weekly consciousness to some extent of just focusing on little things, moto, it can be that hard reset. And then you can come back and it's like, oh, whoa, okay, I have a completely different perspective now. And I'm better. I just took 4 months off and I'm somehow better. It's nice.
100%. Like, and the thing about that too is like, it's like a break helped me to become a rider. Like, it's, you would think that playing on a bike that you're going to, well, to a degree, yes, you know, you might gain better technique and stuff like that. But, you know, as you talked about many times, and from about like he was struggling with, I struggled with, like going and leading with your head in a situation where you don't feel like it. Like, well, that's mindset. Like naturally you fear of it, so you push away, right? But like getting a time to get your mind right in a sense, or reset, should I say, it does make you a rider. At least I feel like I'm a better rider because of my injuries. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah. Double Trouble just commented. He said, I just mentally tell myself, hit everything with confidence like I rode yesterday, no matter if it's been a week or 3 months. You know, I've had to pull that mind trick too, safely-ish. But I remember one year I showed up to Supercross at A1 in the 450 class. And I hadn't ridden a Supercross track. I can't remember what year this was. I hadn't ridden a Supercross track since Vegas, which was the last round of the previous year. So imagine showing up to a Supercross race, Anaheim 1, and just having to tell myself, okay, you remember how to hit a triple. You remember how to hit whoops. And I just had to trick myself into, like, literally, that was my whole thing. I'm like, okay, like, let's just pretend it was last weekend that I was at Vegas. Let's just pretend that it was last weekend that I was at Vegas. And believe it or not, like that was a very unsafe thing probably to do, but it did work. The feelings come back. And James Stewart was talking about it one broadcast, and it was really interesting the way he said it. It was an example of where he said, you want to have, because there's a lot of times where people will say you want to have bad memory, right? You want to forget certain things and move on. He was saying you want to have a good memory. And why he was saying that is it was forget who, but he was just saying like he wanted that person to have a good memory to try to conjure up those feelings and that flow that they were able to get when they did as well as they did. Have that good memory and remember it. So, yeah, it sticks with you. It's like riding a bike. You don't forget it. But it can, like you were saying, it can be that reset.
Yeah, and Double Trouble, like you bring up a good point, because it by reading that comment, it reminded me of a situation on the track on the last time I went. There was a tabletop there, and you know I was playing it reserved, and I really wasn't pushing myself or anything like that. Well, I found it was easier to get your speed ahead of time, right? And so because I had been so far off of the intensity, I almost forgot that, you know what, no, I actually do kind of have to go fast and carry momentum to do everything right. So it was like there was that moment where it was like, no, I can carry this speed. I can do this. Like I have to, because this is how you have to do it, right? So it was like this. There was a shift in there where I kind of had to force it in order to, I guess, do it the right way or safely, you know? And that was that shift there too. So he brings up a good point.
Dirt Bike Dave said, riding really just helps me clear my mind from the noise of the world. Here he goes. It's funny how bikes are so loud and aggressive, but it comes with such silence and peace. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. Speaking of loud or silence, somebody sent me, if it's anybody in this, was that you?
Yeah, dog.
You weren't going to let me know? There was no return label or anything. The ear things?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So what do you think of those?
Well, thank you. First of all, I haven't got a chance to test them yet, although I did put them in my ear. And for the first time ever, that seems like those are going to stay in my ear like really quite nicely.
Never have a problem with them again.
Oh, heck yeah. And the one thing I did notice though is like I didn't put a helmet on or anything. I just put them in and I was walking around the house like listening to my voice and like listening to Allie talk. Does it do a good job of cutting the bike volume enough to be noticeable? Because I was like, oh, I feel like it's not cutting volume enough.
It's perfect.
Okay.
And it cuts. I have a loud 250. I don't know if there's anybody that I've ridden a 250 that's louder than mine. And it's so noticeable that I can't even ride with the earplugs off.
Wow.
But it cuts it off to where it's not a problem, and I can have a conversation with someone with my helmet on.
Yeah. And they're comfortable and they feel like they'll stay. What's the name of them? So if people in here.
So yeah, if you guys are interested, just go to Amazon, and the brand is called Earpiece. Ear, E-A-R, like think of like peace, not P-I-E, but peace. Like you need peace, P-E-A-C-E. Earpiece. And then you've got two different options. I use the Pro version. I think they're around $40-50 or so. There's a lesser version. I can't comment on those because I've never used them, but they come in a nice little, chrome case with some extra buds.
Yeah.
So you can put them on a keychain, hang them on your bag, whatever. You should be able to carry them with you everywhere. But they're the best that I've found. I've introduced them to other people. Somebody mentioned Dio here in the chat. I introduced him to him. He got them, loves them, so like, in my opinion, they're the best out there.
Great. Thank you for sending those. I am excited to try them because I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this. I've tried them before at Jet and Hunter's house, but they were just like cheapo ones that you'd buy at like Target or something. And although it worked well, amazingly well, like to the point where I just felt a lot better on the bike because it was, having Jet and Hunter and Hymus and all those other guys out there around me, I couldn't really hear the other bikes, which I liked. I could hear them, but it just dulled it. They just kept popping out. So I stopped wearing them. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll bring these whenever my next class is and I'll try them. And then I shall report back and maybe I can get them to be a Moto Academy sponsor.
Yeah, you gotta let me know. I'll see you at class next month at Thunder Valley.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When is that? October. Do you know the date?
I don't.
I'm excited. I always love going there. Okay, I got to run. Komodo, great talking with you. Everybody in here, thank you guys for being in here. If you have any questions, like usual, just shoot me a direct message. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to end the podcast. This is episode 108, believe it or not, of the Moto Academy podcast. So we're still ripping and dipping through episodes. Oh, by the way, for a lot of musicians in here, we bought Millie her first guitar today. It is that's 4 letters. It was a really nice version of a kid's guitar. She did art class this morning, and after art class, they have like this little shop as you're leaving, and there was this cute little pink guitar. And I was like, oh, we got to get that. And we pick it out. We get it to the register. It was $120. I was like, what did we just buy? I thought it was going to be like a $10 kid's toy. Turns out it's like a legit guitar for kids. I don't know the name of it, but it's 4 letters. You guys probably know it. So yeah, Millie's going to be a musician, which is exciting. Okay. That's all. Toodles, guys. Thanks, Harry. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Moto Academy podcast. Toodalooskies.